In order tonight, let's stand for the pledge, please. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Here.
Mrs. Cotterman.
Here.
Mr. Mosier.
Here.
Miss Amy Walker.
Here.
Mr. Wigton. Here.
All right, like to accept a motion for approval of the previous board minutes.
Nope.
Or excuse me, sorry about that. Like to make an adoption of the agenda for the night, including the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to remove item K, 1C for the stipends for Chad Hutchison, David Gilbert, and Brian Mosier for a line item vote, please.
And that's on the addendum.
Correct. Yes, from the addendum.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. All right, approval of previous board meeting minutes from February 19th, 2025 and March 13th, 2025.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is it working?
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Presentation certificates. Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, Mr. Conway has a presentation to make.
All right, can I please have Aiden Proctor and Jackson Stankham come down? So I want to start by saying I get the opportunity to recognize two of the best wrestlers, not just obviously in Madison or Richland County, but in the entire state of Ohio. Tonight, I'm speaking for Mr. Rickert, who unfortunately could not be here because he is at our girls' basketball banquet tonight. So it's happening at the same time. So I want to start by thanking the board for allowing me the opportunity to recognize these individuals. I've had the opportunity, the unique opportunity, to see them not just in the school where they're excellent role models, but also in the practice room, their leaders through their work ethic, the way they treat their teammates. They truly deserving. I'm going to start by first talking about Aiden Proctor. He is a sophomore. He is the Tom Ellis Invitational champion, placed second at the St. Clairsville Invitational, took third at the J.C. Gorman, third at Sally George. He is an OCC champion, a sectional champion, third place finish at districts, and eighth place finish in the state tournament, earning him All Ohio honors. He finished the season with a record of 42-12, and he is only a sophomore. So if you would, please give it up for Aiden Proctor. Jackson Stankham is a junior. He is also a Tom Ellis Invitational champion and a St. Clairsville Invitational champion. He finished second at the J.C. Gorman, took third at the prestigious Top Gun tournament. He was a Sally George Invitational champion, sectional champion, district champion, and finished sixth at the state tournament, also earning him All Ohio honors. Jackson Stankham. Jackson also reached the century mark in wins this year. His final record ended up 45-7. And again, Jackson is also back next year. So a lot to celebrate with our wrestling program. Also, I want to mention that our girls team had a very successful season. We had the most girls competing in the OCC at the sectional tournament in Clyde. All 7 Lady Ram wrestlers placed. The team finished 5th. And Estella, if you wouldn't mind standing up. She's here. There's Estella Copeland-Smith was a 2-time sectional champion. She finished her season with a record of 38-4. So Estella Copeland-Smith. So finally, just on behalf of Coach Rickert and the Madison High School staff and administration, we just want to say thank you for representing Madison and showing the rest of the state Ram pride.
All right, recognition of visitors. If you have 3 minutes to come up and talk, please identify yourself and where you live at for the record. And this session will last no more than 30 minutes.
Crystal Copert-Smith, 1609 Hewlett Road. As you know, I come to all of your board meetings, and normally I sit here as a quiet observer to be an informed taxpayer. But at the last month's board meeting, when you voted to not compensate the wrestling coaches for their additional duties, it struck my emotions. As my daughter Estella here, this is her 3rd year wrestling, and I didn't know anything about wrestling until she joined, and so I understand and respect that some of you didn't know anything about wrestling as well, but wrestling has changed her life. It drives her. At one of the tournaments, I overheard one of her female teammates say, "I love watching Estella wrestle. She motivates me. She deserves to be captain." And that just made my heart explode. And she is the team captain. She works very hard. Originally, you wanted to postpone the issue, and again, I understand that. You didn't know anything about the sport. The new sports present new challenges, but I thought Mr. Peterson did a great job explaining how him and Mr. Rickert came up with the solution to this problem to pay a stipend. One of you even admitted that the stipend is less money over hiring an additional head coach as originally proposed. Girls wrestling is not only the fastest growing sport in the state, but also the nation. And as you heard, our team grew from 2 to 10 girls over the year. You like a percent of increase, that's a 400% increase. Add the 2 middle school girls, that's a 500% increase. And also, as mentioned, is the largest girls team in the area. It was also attempted to break down the stipend as an hourly rate. Not only was that inaccurate, because it didn't factor in the district and the sectional tournaments, but it was also inappropriate. We don't do that to any other coach or teacher. And how would you like it if I did it to you? You're making $125 per board meeting. Would you like me to accuse you of making $125 an hour? Or how about that January organizational meeting that took 12 minutes that you got paid $125 for? Are you donating that back to the district? Another hourly rate. So of their 12 girls-only tournaments, of 3 of those, they took a school bus. I requested information from your administration on how much that cost. It was 45 hours, like I said. So with this new sport, it's the one division, and all the middle school and high school girls are together. So these tournaments are extra long days. So of those 3 tournaments, the bus drivers got 45 hours, costing $975. They all 3 got overtime as well. And so that hourly rate is $21 an hour, which they deserve that. That is not in any disrespect to them. But that hourly rate that you threw out was making them get paid more for just sitting there than what the coach is getting paid to coach. I also want to mention we had hosted our first home girls tournament on December 29th. I think that was very successful. We had 15 middle school teams come and 30 high school teams come. I thought everything went great. Were any of you there? And then also there were 2 co-ed tournaments that they drove the van to, saving additional money. So you weren't paying a bus driver, you weren't paying hotel stays. All that alone has saved the district money. So I ask that you please do the right thing and vote yes to compensate the wrestling coach for their additional duties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Misty Dunlap, 741 Bryan Air Road. I rise in support of the superintendent's recommendation to approve the stipend for additional duties for the head coach. At the last board meeting on February 19th, 2 board members voted no on the stipend, knowing that 1 member removed themselves from that vote. A board member claimed to vote no due to the district's financial concerns. I raised the question to the board since the stipend was not approved for coaching the girls' team. Are the board members that voted no suggesting that Coach Mosier should not have coached those girls at the sectional tournament on that following Friday, February 21st, and then again at districts on Sunday, March 2nd? I personally am grateful that Coach Mosher keeps his priorities on the student athletes and not internal politics going on within the board. After the stipend was voted down by the board, Coach Mosher was still there for the girls, even though he did not have the support from you as board members. I am beyond grateful for all the time, dedication, and passion Coach Mosher has not only shown for my son the last 4 years, but for all of his student athletes. Thank you.
Thank you. Please identify yourself and tell us where you live.
Julia Litt, 167 Whittier Road. I have a statement on my mom's behalf as she could not be here tonight, and she does want to apologize. She says,
Excuse me, Mr. Mosier. According to board policy, you have to be in attendance in order to speak. She can speak on her own behalf.
Speak on
Okay,
your own.
I'll speak on my own behalf. I feel it's important to share what a positive impact wrestling and the coaches have had on my brother. Before wrestling, my brother was failing school and had a lot of behavioral issues. Within weeks of starting wrestling, his grades were on honor roll, and he was no longer getting phone calls sent home. We went from being late all the time to wanting to go to school and actually being early. Wrestling gave him a way out. He was a part of the team, but the outcome relied on himself. The more he learned on the mat, the more his confidence grew off of the mat. After his first year of high school wrestling, during club wrestling, he was injured. 2 weeks shy of returning to wrestling from that injury, he injured his shoulder, which led to months of physical therapy, and he was officially out for his sophomore season. My brother still continued to show up and did everything that he could. When the time came, his coaches showed up for him. I'm a firm believer, what you put into something is what you get out of it. They made sure he was still part of everything. Wrestling is more than a team, it's a family, and the environment the coaches have made. The life lessons he continued to learn in the wrestling room carry on with him out of it. So we all want to say thank you to all of the coaches. Wrestling season isn't only November to March for some. It's all year round. It's training, it's lifting, it's club season. It's conversations of encouragement and goal settings, team bonding and building. My brother, after a few weeks shy of a year, is getting ready to step back onto the mat, and the school season had just ended. But my brother's hard work is just the beginning, and guess who's standing right beside him? Brian Mosier.
Thank you. Next. Please identify and where you live.
Courtney Kynes, 1502 Victory Street. As a mom of 3 wrestlers here at Madison, all of which have had the privilege of being inspired, mentored, and coached by Coach Mosier. As a mom of 3 busy boys, I'm often reminded of just how important it is to have a village, if you will. I can confidently tell you all the wrestling family and wrestlers, both boys and girls teams alike, have felt like Coach Mosier has created that village within our sport here at Madison. We all feel so strongly it's important to be rewarded and compensated for your time and commitment to growing and strengthening our program. That's why I'm here today. On February 19th, the last board meeting, one of your fellow board members voted no stipend, mentioning there are no additional practice hours for girls, and this stipend would be for additional hours on Sunday only. Referring back to the village, the level of commitment Coach Mosier dedicates to our program, he already invests well over the required hours building both the boys and girls program. Outside of the Sunday tournaments, the hours he spends nearly 40 hours a week planning practices, entering rosters, hosting practices, doing laundry, cleaning mats, posting practice, lifting, along with the hours of small groups and even one-on-one practice sessions. Outside of his dedication to our sport, Coach Mosier still holds a full-time job. Whether in season or out of season, there's hardly a day you don't see Coach Mosier at the field house. Unless the board can figure out how to add a few extra hours to the day, I would ask the board what you would expect from Coach Mosier that he isn't already making happen. I can promise you, if Coach Mosier has any extra available time at all, he will always find a way to dedicate it back to his athletes. I support the superintendent's recommendation to approve the stipend for Coach Mosier as the head girls wrestling coach. Thank you.
Thank you. Please identify and where you live at.
Good evening, Josh Schaefer, 1677 Beale Road. Father of 3 Madison wrestlers. Jackson, a sophomore, Jade's a freshman, Jocelyn in the youth program. At the last board meeting, a no vote was cast on the stipend mentioned because a board member said there could be some Title IX concerns. Was there any additional information provided for those concerns? I believe Coach Mosier is fully committed to growing the girls' wrestling program without reservation. If any board members have stepped foot into the wrestling room, you'd see that exact goal written on the board. The girls' program has grown drastically from only 1 girl in 2018 to 2022 all the way up to 10 girls this past season. You see it all the time. Girls' wrestling is one of the fastest growing sports right now. There are also quite a few girls coming up in the youth and middle school programs, including my daughter, whom I want to have a coach and a program for. If Coach Mosier wasn't committed to taking on additional duties to help promote and develop girls' wrestling, these girls wouldn't have the opportunity to wrestle and do something they enjoy. By voting no on the stipend for additional duties for the head wrestling coach, is the board suggesting doing away with the girls' wrestling program and discriminating against these young ladies? Another couple questions. Board members are getting paid to be here, right? $125 a meeting? Only a couple hours. You support that, right? If you weren't paid, would you be here? Have you ever been to a wrestling tournament? Drive time, you're looking at a minimum of 12+ hours. Ever had a board meeting last that long? Wasn't there a recent meeting that only lasted about 12 minutes? To support getting paid $125 per meeting for a couple minutes or a couple hours, but won't support the stipend for all the additional time that a dedicated coach spends with our athletes? $19.50 for the entire 24-25 season is really pocket change when broken down, considering all the time spent, compared to the approximate $5,000 that was approved and spent by the board members to attend a 3-day Ohio School Board conference in November. The district's financial status was of such concern, one would think that $5,000 could have been used better elsewhere. In closing, I support the superintendent's recommendation to approve the stipend for head wrestling coach for Coach Mosier. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Welcome. Please identify and give your address.
Tanya Lewis, 1350 Hickory Lane.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to talk about Abby before wrestling. Abby had a 1.5 GPA, and she was extremely bullied, followed around and called names. She was in the dark. She was struggling with her mental health, hanging out with the wrong crowd, trying things like vaping and other things. I tried to empower her. I tried to lift her up. Excuse me. I told her, let him talk, Abby. Sometimes the girls were disciplined for their actions when they were caught. Other times, they were not. It was her word versus theirs. Eventually, I told her to fight him. I told her, just fight him. She said, I can't, Mom. They're bigger than me. I'm scared. She didn't want to go to school. And she cried every day. We put her in cheer, soccer, track. Nothing seemed to help. And then Mosier and Hutch and Estella convinced Abby to try wrestling. She said, I don't know, Mom. They're calling me names. They're telling me that I'm thirsty. Girls are making fun of me for wrestling. I don't want to keep doing this. Mosier said exactly what I've been saying this whole time for many years, but it was different coming from him. And he said, Abby, let him talk. The girls are going to talk. But you stick to what you want to do, and you stick with it. She started going to church with Estella and Mosier and Christine. She started going to early practices and the many optional practices that are offered, and hanging out with Estella. I started to notice my daughter walking taller and shining, and she showed up for herself. And Abby has a 2.5 GPA. She didn't have to fight because the bullies' words didn't matter anymore. The things that they said, the things that they were doing, it didn't matter. Mosier empowered her in a way that I absolutely could not, and neither could the teachers. But it didn't matter. Mosier is a mentor, a motivation, and an inspiration to many children. He empowers them to be the best version of themselves. I have 10 children, and of my 10 children, all of them play at least one sport. Not a single coach spends as much time with my children than Coach Mosier, on the mat and off the mat. When you say no to the stipend, which is less than minimum wage, it's really a slap in the face, and it's very personal to me.
20 seconds, ma'am.
Those coaches have empowered these children in a way that none of us could.
Thank you. You can please identify and give us your address.
I'm Jessica Blanton, 951 Labor Road. We're here tonight to address the Madison Local School Board regarding the stipend for the head coaching position. At the February 19th board meeting, the vote to approve Coach Mosier's stipend for the wrestling program was turned down with a 2-2 vote. The reasons given at the board meeting by a board member who voted no comes as a shock to us. One of those reasons being the recent financial report and another comment regarding expenses. Expense being, as you've heard from others, approximately $9 to $15 an hour average for the stipend. It's shocking to me that our school board has voted against this. However, it's understood that the 24-25 board has already approved all additional duties based on the recommendation of the superintendent, except for the head coach wrestling stipend. The recommendation approval was based on the research obtained and facts that are the best interest of our student athletes, both the boys and the girls. I came here tonight to voice to the board directly the concerns around decision-making in this matter. At the last board meeting, the 2 assistant wrestling coaches were approved, but denied the stipend for the head wrestling coach. It doesn't make any sense, especially when the decision for the stipend ultimately saved the district money, as it was originally posted as a position for the separate girls head coach. It's clear to us that our school board has not experienced any type of wrestling program, especially the program we have here in our district, aside from our one board member with wrestling experience. Might also add that he not only has the experience, but regularly attends the tournaments for both boys and girls, providing support to all of the athletes. The others on the board cannot possibly know our coaches, their experience, responsibility level, or understand how the program is ran. If the board were aware of a program, just one of the ways Coach Mosier has already cut costs for the district, the board would understand that Coach Mosier more than deserves the stipend. He's used a school van to transport wrestlers for cost efficiency. This season, past seasons, decision to use the school van for tournaments versus a school bus, which then would need a paid driver, overnight accommodations, fuel expenses. It saved the district over $7,500 just in one season. Was based on the 23-24 season. I want to repeat, this decision of his has saved over $7,500, and we're worried about approving a $1,950 stipend. Might I also add, this is a true concern with finances in the district. Again, as stated in February, and as a district we're in such a crunch, then why did the board approve to spend the $5,000 to attend the Ohio Board Conference in November? The girls program has grown to 10 wrestlers this season, one of which is Anna, who's standing next to me. This is her first year wrestling at the varsity level, lettering, and made it to districts, all in her first year under the direction of our coaches. We're asking that you reconsider your decision, approve the stipend, so our student athletes can continue to have a great wrestling program in the coming years. Thank you.
Next, please, identify yourself and your address.
Jackson Stancombe, 2269 Satinwood Drive. I would like to speak on the character of Coach Mosier. He is one of the most caring coaches I've ever had. I'm a 3-sport athlete. I've played sports all the way through high school and middle school. I even did sports when I was small. But through all of those coaches, every single one I've ever met, Mosier is the most caring, and he wants his athletes to succeed more than anything. Coach Mosier would give the shirt off of his back to one of the athletes if they asked for it. And I know that. It's not speculation, because this shirt I'm wearing currently was gifted to me by him during a practice because I forgot to bring an extra. He literally gave me the shirt off of his back because he knew it would help me be better. I know that it might be a little bit extra out of your pockets, but you're never going to find a coach as caring and compassionate for his athletes as he is. He will literally do anything for them. That's all I have to say.
All right, next, please. Identify yourself.
Matthew Stancombe, 1248 Village Lane. This is my son right here. Something else I'm going to speak of Coach Mosier that he didn't have to do is in this offseason, he dropped 80 pounds to be an active wrestling participant for my son to drill with here, which ended up paying off dividends when it came time for the state tournament. How many other coaches changed their whole lifestyle, eating habits and home habits, because they have an athlete that needs them to? I got a few other points in here I just want to touch on real quick. We paid $5,000 to send 5 board members to a meeting. This is a school full of teachers. We couldn't send one or two and have them come back and teach everybody else? Come on now. Let's go. We had a 12-minute meeting, and everybody on this board got paid $125 for that. I'm assuming that's accurate. Well, when I break that math down, forgive me, I mean, I'm just a dad, but that comes out to $625 an hour. Are you kidding me? And we're worried about a stipend for the additional duties Coach Mosier's doing for these girls? He's working over 40 hours a week. How many of you have come to a wrestling tournament? I only see a handful of you up there that I know have been there, and I'm at almost all of them. We're stepping over dollars to save dimes. You turn around, you can't read it right now because it's half off the screen, but what's that? Our beliefs and values. It says we value loyalty. Show me another coach that's been this loyal to his athletes. He showed up for all these girls, even after you guys denied his salary. Is that loyalty? How about relationship building? We just heard a mom up here that talked about what he did to her daughter. How's that building relationships? Something nobody else in the school could solve, and he empowered that young lady to walk tall. And we're not going to pay him for what he's doing? I might not understand why you guys made those decisions, but it doesn't seem like it was made out of fact, and it doesn't seem like it was made out of logic. And if anything besides those two things were driving your decision, you don't need to be on this board, and you don't need to have any power over my kids. I'm done.
All right. We have time for one more speaker because the session can only last 30 minutes. So.
Okay. Jim Thompson, Grimes Road, Mansfield, Ohio, and Karen. It was too late to get on the board agenda.
Karen
Bonstein. But we spent the last two.
Please.
Oh, they're doing a presentation.
We're teachers.
Just wanted to, we didn't have time to get on the agenda because we spent the last 2 days in Columbus with Skills USA taking kids down. So we just wanted to step up and let you guys know what happened down there and the success that our students had.
So we transported 20 students to Skills USA competition where there were 7,100 competitors, and we have Jocelyn Barley, prepared speech. She will be going to Atlanta. She won gold. We also have Emily Brandt. She participated in the barbering competition and she won silver. And for the first time in probably 8 or 10 years, we took an opening and closing team of 7 students. Callie Cook, Mila Blankenship, Courtney Cyrus, Araya Tuft, Maddie Berry, Jalecia Nelson, and Macy Mounts, and they took silver. So we have a great team. Thank you for having the meeting to approve our overnight stay. I didn't get it on the minutes before, so thank you. And I wanted you to know how it turned out. So we're so proud of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Jesse Walker, sure.
Yeah.
I live on Woodcrest Drive. I just wanted to take a second. A lot of people here to talk about the stipend tonight that's out there. A lot of great praise for Coach Mosier, and I have no doubt that he is a great coach. That's not what this statement's about. I did want to offer a little bit different perspective. I coach. I volunteer for the high school boys soccer team for this. I think this may be my 6th season. I volunteer for the middle school rec program, soccer program. We started with 14 boys 5 years ago. Now we have 37, maybe 38, okay, somewhere in there. I'm not unique, though. I'm not asking for more money. I'm a volunteer. I'm not unique. Madison, there's teachers out here, coaches out here that go above and beyond. Every coach at Madison goes above and beyond and is not getting any extra compensation for extra duties. All right? That's just a different perspective. I put a ton of hours in. I get no compensation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing not, let's move to the next order of business. G, Administrative Committee reports, legislation.
Yeah, I'm going to give just a quick update to everyone on the budget bill that's currently being discussed and amended in the Ohio House Finance Committee. It's expected to be passed on April 9th, so I just wanted to give a quick update. The topic of discussion on this budget bill is the Fair School Funding Plan. For those of you who are unaware of this plan, implementation began in 2021 in order to fairly fund Ohio schools with a formula that treats all taxpayers fairly based on their community's ability to raise local funds. The implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan formula represents a move toward the equitable and adequate funding of Ohio schools. However, for the plan, years 5 and 6, 2025 and 2026 of the implementation must be included in the budget, and base cost inputs must be updated to provide the funding necessary due to inflation. The governor's budget, which is now being considered in the House of Representatives, includes the phase-in of years 5 and 6. However, the governor's budget does not include an update to base costs, which means that districts would lose money because the funding formula would not account for inflationary increases in base costs. If we can get this fully implemented, the Fair School Funding Plan will bring predictability and stability for Ohio schools, allowing districts to sustain and develop programming that will prepare all students for success. That means Ohio will continue to be a desirable place to live, work, and raise a family. As our legislators continue discussions of priorities for the biennium budget, they need to hear from you about the importance and urgency of investing in Ohio's children. I have placed an informational sheet containing Senator Mark Romanchuk and Representative Marilyn John's information, their phone numbers, email addresses, and their work address. There are talking points on that sheet for what you can say. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Athletic Board of Control, we haven't met. Student representative, comments? Anybody? There she is.
Hello, my name is Elise Huggins, and I am this year's Student Council President. The ACT took place last week with the juniors giving all they were prepared for this year to the test. Alongside that, testing is fastly approaching with the English 10 test starting this year's state test off, which I am thankful I do not have to participate in. Track has been outside and getting ready for their season, which has finally arrived. Softball and baseball have had a couple scrimmages, which is helping them prepare for their seasons, as well as the boys' tennis is gearing up for their 2025 spring season. The first annual lip sync battle happened last Friday, which brought in $150 that was donated to United Way. This event let students and teachers bring out their inner singing voice to compete for the ultimate prize. Emily Jones brought home the win with a stellar performance of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, winning her the gift basket of Cinemark gift cards, cosmetology donations, as well as Akron Rubber Ducks tickets and more. Seniors have Scholarship Day tomorrow to give them the opportunity to get free money to help them with secondary education and books. Madison is giving out over $50,000 to students through scholarships. Student Council had their volleyball tournament with 10 competing teams this year. This event is always a fun and amazing way to bring in money for Merry Madison Christmas, Student Council activities, as well as donations of food from Student Council members that get distributed to students for testing, track events, as well as snacks for Student Council members on meeting days. The third 9 weeks ends this Friday, giving us the final crunch in our school year, as well as a 2-hour early release. Lastly, we all wish we were on spring break and hope it comes faster than it was set to be set. Thank you. Have a good night.
Facilities report?
Mr. Neron is on vacation.
Okay. Student achievement. Ms. Walker?
At Eastview, they just finished parent-grandparent lunch week, as well as reading their school-wide book, The Chocolate Touch. This Friday, they will have an Easter egg hunt for their Q3 PBIS event. The Eastview team is working hard on getting their 3rd and 4th graders geared up for state testing, which begins on April 1st. At Madison South, the Student Council recently ran a bake sale to raise money for Jenny Phillips, a preschool teacher at South who is battling cancer. The students, with the guidance of their advisors, Mrs. Lawhorn, Mrs. Richter, and Mrs. Adinkra, worked hard to organize all the baked goods and goodie bags to sell each morning and at conferences. They were able to raise over $1,000. They're very proud of everyone's hard work and generosity. At Mifflin, the Literacy Committee hosted a school-wide assembly with the Siberian Husky Club of Greater Cleveland, where dog sledding and a husky were presented to students to prepare them for our Literacy Night on May 8th. Mifflin also hosted a penny war to raise funds for the Braxton Cole family, with the teacher having the most money receiving a pie to the face. Mr. Henry will take that honor, and Mrs. Porter has also agreed to a pie coming in 2nd place. Mifflin also held its annual health fair led by students of Ashland University. 2nd grade students recently completed universal screening for possible gifted identification, and 3rd and 4th graders will take their Ohio State test in ELA in 2 weeks. At the middle school, they're gearing up for the state testing beginning April 1st. Our students and staff have been working hard to prepare and get motivated to do their best and show growth on the tests. The band and choir students both performed over the last 2 weeks and did an excellent job of serenading their parents and the community. At the high school, Samantha Myers was Madison's high school representative at the March 11th Franklin B. Walter Scholarship Program. She was joined there by her positive impact person, Mr. Dillon. Great job, Sam. Last Friday's lip sync battle raised money for the United Way. Special thank you goes to Mrs. Darnell and Mr. Ditlevson for organizing the event. Student course requests and scheduling is completed, and now the focus has shifted to state testing. Teachers and students are preparing to the best of their abilities for the upcoming assessments. With Career Tech Student Achievement, congratulations to the students who competed in the Business Professionals of America state competition. We had 2 students who placed in the top 10, did not qualify for nationals though. We are still very proud of them and how they represented Madison. Jerry Wertz placed in the device configuration and troubleshooting competition, and Katie Holtzberth placed in an integrated office applications. And that's all.
All right, thank you. Board policy.
Under superintendent's business, we have a whole slew of policies that are new, revised, rescinded, just for the first reading, so they'll be back on for a second reading. Right here is a nice huge stack if anybody is interested in taking a look. I don't want to take hours and go over all of them, but nothing major. Mostly it aligns with legislation, but like I said, up here, and if you would like me to elaborate on any of them for reading 2 next month, I can certainly do that.
There was some new ones because of the legislation, I noticed.
Yes. Yep.
Any other discussions for board policy? Nothing. Superintendent update?
Yeah, just a few updates, and several of these have already been elaborated on, but we'll end the 3rd quarter on Friday. We are rapidly approaching state testing time, as several of the buildings have indicated, which will start in April. Also, in Mrs. Walker's report, I also want to congratulate Samantha Myers as Madison's Franklin B. Walter Scholar, and as she was recognized last Tuesday night at Mid-Ohio Educational Service Center. And that awards program kind of kicks off the awards season as we come down the stretch. And with respect to that, just want to remind board members and everybody that graduation will take place on Sunday, June 1st at 2 o'clock right here. And we do have a senior citizen luncheon tomorrow, and we've gone back to 2 sessions of that. Both luncheons had to be canceled in January and February due to calamity days. So we've gone back to 2 lunches, at least for the end of the school year. And that concludes my update.
All right, thank you. Item H, presentation. Ms. Cox, Madison South. Here they come.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Kyle Gordon is also here with us tonight, assistant principal. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about our theme or our motto for the year was how lucky are we? And we've talked about this as a staff all year long. These are some of the words that popped up when the staff sent in what that motto meant to them, how lucky are we? And you can kind of see some of the words that popped up about the things that they feel lucky to be involved in each and every day. And I also want to read you a few of those quotes just to start off. How lucky are we to have such hardworking students, encouraging coworkers, and 2 supportive principals? How lucky are we to be able to impact in the lives of so many children at South every day? How lucky are we to influence the kiddos every day? And even though we might not see the why ourselves each day, there is a reason and a purpose that we are their teacher. Being a teacher is a pretty amazing thing and something we should celebrate being able to do. How lucky are we to have people who care about each other and ask how you're doing and if they can help or just give a hug? How lucky are we that our coworkers show us grace and kindness and all students are accepted for who they are at South? So, how lucky are we to be a part of Madison South, a place where our opinions, talents, and strengths are valued, a place where challenges are looked at as problems to solve, not a reason to place blame, a place where the focus is on the positive aspects of the students while looking out for the academic, social, and emotional well-being of all of our students. So as you can see, we feel pretty lucky to get to be a part of the Madison community and specifically to Madison South. So we appreciate, all the staff and all of the parents and students that we get to work with each and every day. So.
I'm going to touch a little bit here on some of our academics that we've seen through this year and a little bit over time as well. So at the beginning of the year, we'll talk about math. This is our start of the year, our diagnostic. We're fresh coming out of the summer, and we're taking a look at where we're at to begin the year. In math, we had 9% of our students coming into the year were on track at grade level or above. The most recent one we took not too long ago, a few weeks ago, kind of wrapped up. We have increased it, and for the math portion, we've increased by 19% more students have moved into the on or above level as well, while decreasing students who were 2 or more years by 15%. So we're moving in the right direction, making that growth going towards on or above track. For ELA, if you take a look up there, starting the year, so this is the fall one that we took for our diagnostic. We were at 20% who are on or above coming into the year, and we've been able to increase that on our most recent diagnostic. We improved that by 25% of our students now. According to that last one, we're on or above. So again, moving in the right direction, making that growth. We also took a look at our state testing data for 3rd grade for the AIR test. We were able to track some trends over the last 5 years, taking a look at the fall ELA testing scores. So over the last 5 years, we've had a nearly 7% increase in students scoring advanced. Since that started, we've seen a 7% increase more in the advanced category. Going into the accelerated category, we've seen a 6% increase, and then increased students scoring proficient or higher in that same time frame by 16%. So again, over time, we are seeing that progress going towards moving our higher end students and overall everybody progressing positively into the proficient or higher.
And with that, we did receive the Momentum Award this year, which recognizes schools and districts that improve their performance index by 3 or more points from the previous year, while also achieving a value-added rating of 4 or more stars. So we're very proud of the hard work that is happening, the growth that is being made, and now just to keep it moving in that right direction.
Sorry, got off.
Oh, you're in charge of that. That's right. Okay, along with that is some of the enrichment things. We've identified 18 students in the gifted area in the past 2 years in our K-2 level. In reading, 64% of the students made a year's worth of growth at that middle part, and 59% in math, so we're trending up there. And 39% of students in both ELA and math made their stretch growth on iReady at that midway diagnostic.
All right, a little tough to see, but I'm going to focus a little bit of a special thing that we have going on at South that's pretty unique. Wyatt. So Wyatt is one of our teachers, Mrs. Newberry. She has Wyatt. She brings him in with her. He's a certified therapy dog through Alliance Therapy Dog. He comes in 5 days a week, comes into school with her. They are here somewhere. Wyatt and there's Miss Newberry and Wyatt. You can go through here, and I could go through all the details on Wyatt here. Like I said, he's here 5 days a week with us at school. He's in Mrs. Newberry's title class, reading with the small groups in there. The students absolutely love having him there. He helps the students with calmness. They learn responsibility. They love reading to him. Some of the most adorable pictures you'll ever see up there. They enjoy taking the time to get down on his level. They're very calm. They read to him. Not only does he attend and come to school with us, but Mrs. Newberry also takes him. He's able to go to visits to the Wexner Center twice a month, member of the Caring Therapy Canines, and volunteers throughout the community at the College of Worcester, reading nights at school, nursing homes, library. He puts a smile on everybody's face, students and staff members. There's times where it's just a frustrating day, and then you see Wyatt in the hallway, and you go up and, ask him to sit and pet him, and it's very helpful. We didn't get to add this part, but today we had a situation where I had a student who's frustrated, upset, hanging out with me in the office, and Miss Newberry just happened to be coming through the office with Wyatt, and just said, "Hey, do you want to see if the student wants to meet Wyatt?" And just the calmness, and she taught him how to pet and what it took and what it looked like, and then went and talked to that student's teacher and saying, "Hey, maybe we can set something up that this could be an earned break or something that he earns towards with helping out with Wyatt." So just, an everyday occurrence where she's trying to find ways to help Wyatt incorporate helping our students out. So we absolutely love having Mrs. Newberry and Wyatt with us at South.
Okay. Oh,
Go ahead. Yes.
a little clap. Yes, Wyatt. All right, a little bit about our student council. We have 29 students this year in 2nd through 4th grade. Those students are recommended by either their current teacher or their past teacher to be a part of that. So they're held to a pretty high standard, and there's 3 groups, committees within that. The cheer committee, which kind of creates the signs and the hype through the building for our Ram rallies and other things that we have going on in the building. Our fundraising committee, who kind of set up some of the fundraisers that we've done this year, one for Braxton Cole at Mifflin, and then Mrs. Phillips from South. So they did bake sales, they sold bracelets and different things around the building. Just a nice way for them to get involved and learn, what that takes to raise money and to give to others. And then our school improvement committee, who kind of cleans up the playgrounds, cleans up the building, keeps an eye on things, and keeps that in ship shape there. All right, Operation South Christmas. So we kind of piggybacked on the Mary Madison, that's been done for years. That is such an awesome program. And Mrs. Tripp, Katrina Tripp, our counselor, has worked really hard to kind of build up our own. So with Mary Madison and then some local churches and then the support of our staff in-house, we were able to support 46 South families with Christmas presents this year. And then 35 families with food around the holidays. So not necessarily for the holiday, but for enough food to cover for the whole break, so that they had different things for the kids to have over break. So we're super, thankful for that and the amount of hard work that she puts into that, and then our staff jumps on board with that too to help others.
All right, so a little promotional here. I just want to make everybody aware that we are bringing back the Elementary Olympics again this year. So we will be holding that on Thursday, May 15th at 6 p.m. Up at the high school track. Similar, where we've had volunteers for different varsity sports, their coaches, members. They'll be helping out on the football field too, having different events. The gym teachers right now are qualifying everybody, getting everybody ready to go. we'll kick it off. So it'll be third and fourth grade this year. A little bit change in the format this year. We're going to do third graders from all schools versus fourth graders for all schools. We kind of thought that might help with the camaraderie, those fourth graders getting to meet each other, compete together as they move on to fifth grade too, where they'll be together at the middle school, everybody. So we thought that was a neat aspect that we wanted to try out this year. Yeah, so we'll be holding that. It'll kick off with the second grade fun run, so all second graders to get to come out and experience it. It's open to the entire community, free to enter. We will have donations at the door with some of those proceeds going towards Braxton Cole and his family to help his battle as well. Very thankful that we have been fully funded, that all shirts will be paid for student athletes, so they don't need to pay for anything for their shirts. We had a few sponsors from Giannino's, the Infield, Buckeye Express, and Washington Floors were able to help out as well to cover the cost of that. So it's all free for the students, and they'll have their matching shirts for the grade levels and things like that. You know, we love having the support and the help from staff as well to come out. Thanks. We have the support from the staff to come out and help volunteer. You guys are more than welcome, invited to come out and help volunteer or come out and cheer them on as well. Obviously, students love having to see their teachers outside of school, so they love seeing staff members and everybody to go out there and cheer them on as well. So hoping for a nice sunny day. However, if it doesn't, we have the makeup on Monday, May 19th as well would be the makeup day for that. So we've started putting that out there for the community. We posted it and sent it everywhere. And so just looking forward to holding that event again this year and hopefully for a nice sunny night.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep. We just have one more thing. Just looking towards the end of the year here, our BLT is working, hard to try to keep everyone on pace to meet our school-wide goals. We've got some field trips planned for the end of the year, PBIS celebrations, end of the year, iReady diagnostic celebrations, and our state testing. We do a big town hall, we call it, where we bring everybody together to kind of celebrate them, give them good luck, and then we'll celebrate, what happens from that as well. And then we have our special events that we kind of end the year with, our egg drop, carnival, fourth grade send-off, awards, and our talent show. Those are all very popular events that we do each year. So, is there anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Thanks,
guys for your time.
Appreciate it. Yep, thank you.
All right, moving on to item I, approval of donations. Entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I first of all would like to thank all of our donors. Very appreciative of those donations, and they are very helpful. I do want to call attention to item 1 under donations, where the Mill Iron Foundation has so generously donated $200,000 to our turf replacement project at the football field. And Mr. Rickert, again, who couldn't be here tonight, we've purchased a plaque to provide to the Mill Iron Foundation for their generosity. And I'd just like to read what it says. Thank you, Mill Iron Foundation, for the extremely generous donation in support of the Madison Ram Field Turf Resurfacing Project. So Mr. Mill Iron is a graduate of Madison, was the most valuable player on the football team his senior year, and the Mill Iron Foundation was quite generous and worked very well with us to support this. So we are very thankful for that donation.
Any other discussion? Go ahead with roll call, please.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Item J, treasurer's business. Entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
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 Hold on a second.
Any discussion?
No, he needs a
I need an
second,
ink
though.
pen.
Here.
Thanks. Do the first and second.
I did.
Tim motioned, I seconded.
Thanks.
Melissa, you need a, I got another one.
All right.
He's got another one if you want.
You have another one?
Okay, well, the first thing I guess I'm going to go over is, what's up there is the monthly financial reports. For the revenues, man, it's small, it's hard to see, sorry. In the month comparison, that's a lot of variance due to timing, so that's not a very good snapshot for the month of February, because, for example, in FY24, we got a very significant advance on our real estate, and we didn't in FY25, so that's why there's a over $1.2 million variance in that month-to-month donation. So if we look at the fiscal year-to-date comparison, that's a little bit more accurate. Miss Amy Walker talked a little bit about the state foundation earlier. You know, we're at this point in time have increased a little over 0.5% from last year. So we're not, our state foundation is not like drastically increasing. It's very minimal. And one thing that, like she pointed out, the Fair School Funding Plan, it's important it gets passed, but I hope it doesn't get passed in the governor's version, because the way it works is you've got it, there's two sides to update. There's the expenditure side, which is what our base cost is. There's a side that says how wealthy is your district getting, which goes in your property valuation. Well, the governor happened to update the wealth of the district and all the other districts to the current FY25 data, but he left the base cost, which is how much it costs to educate a kid, at FY22 data. So what that does is it essentially shifts the burden from the state to the local. So it's got a lot to go through yet. It's got to go through a couple committees, but I hope that I hope his version, his particular version, doesn't get passed. I'd like the Fair School Funding to get passed, but not his particular version, because it will hurt us. Next, we can go through expenditures. Expenditures are pretty on for what we expected at this time of year. We're about 2/3 of the way through the year, and we're about 2/3 of the way through most of the things we expected, like salaries and benefits. Fiscal year to date, we're increased at about 6% over last year for expenditures, but we're not doing well financially, but what I've predicted and forecasted, we're on task for that. The next slide, I just changed those around a little bit from the last time. I put a couple different graphs in just to mix it up a little bit. For example, I think I mentioned to you last year, like instructional expenditures per pupil, you know, we're right up there, which, you know, we are in business to educate kids, so it's very important to know that what we are spending is educating kids overwhelmingly. I mean, when you look at that, it's Mansfield, Plymouth, and Madison. We're spending a lot on instructional expenditures per pupil. We're not spending them on buildings and things like that. So, next one, when I said we're about 2/3 of the way through the year, you know, if you look at the fiscal year comparison, the bottom of the red, we're at 66%. 66% is 2/3, so we're right at that through the year. So that's the monthly financial report. Let's see, what do we have next? Okay, I had a board member. Yeah, that's okay. Go back to that last one if you don't mind. So I had a board member ask about the, I send you guys a distribution summary every month. And basically what that is a check register. But what was confusing to the board members is I just send you the check register. I don't break it down into funds, because obviously not all money can go to just anything we want. It's got specific guidelines. So this is the check register, but the next time I send you this, I've changed it around a little bit, that it'll be broken down just by fund. So you'll see how much the checks written from the general fund, checks written from bond fund, checks written from permanent improvement. So that's what one of these reports are, and it goes by the check number, the type, whether it's an accounts payable or payroll, because there are different types of checks we write. So like when we pay a teacher, it's a payroll check. When we pay for electricity, it's an accounts payable check. The name of the company, the vendor number is just how we track who it is that we're paying. Status reconciled. I'm not sure if you guys know, this is a little bit different from what a normal person does in their checking account. What we'll do is we'll write a check, and we'll call it outstanding, but we won't take it off our balance until it's actually been cashed. Then once it's cashed, it's called reconciled, I take it off our balance. So it's a little bit different than you do your checkbook at home. So these reconciled just means these are the checks that were cashed, not necessarily were written, but were cashed. When they were reconciled and how much they were for. Okay? What's the next one you guys have? I can't see that. All right, so that takes care of that. The next item is, this goes down to the approval, number 3, approval of the appropriations modifications. So when budgets change, I have to modify them, and I have to submit it to the county auditor. You guys have to vote on a modification to the budgets. This is just what we do. So, for example, a few months ago, one of our administrators got a $100,000 donation. All right, that then had to have a budget modification because you had to tell the county auditor, okay, there's a certificate of estimated resources. We're going to get $100,000 more than we thought we were going to get. And if he wants to spend that, we have to send him a budget revision saying, okay, we're going to spend $100,000 more than we thought we were going to spend because we got so that's what this is. It was just the appropriation modification so I can send it to the county auditor. That's number 3. And what do you have next? Cash summary, that is just basically, it's another one of the reports that I send you guys every month, and that it breaks it down by the fund. So, for example, general fund is, what we can pay our utilities out of, what we pay salaries and benefits. If you go down to 002, that's a bond fund. That just happened a few years ago when the taxpayers approved for the bond to build this building. That was a levy, a bond levy. That money then collected to pay for this building has to go into that fund. The next one, 003, Mr. Peterson referenced the turf donation. 003 is a permanent improvement. That'll go into the 003 fund. So unlike a normal checkbook or like in my household, if we wanted to do a Christmas fund, we'd actually open another checking account. That's not the way it works here at school. We have like a checking account, but I have to separate it all in that checking account by funds and functions and objects and separate it all out. So it's a little bit different, and that's basically all this is telling where the balance is in the fund. That's that. Let's see, what do you have up next? Is that it? All right, so then we did the approval of the financial report, we did the approval of the appropriations modification, and then number 1 says the approval of the resolution accepting the amounts and rates determined by the Budget Commission. That is, again, a factor of the county auditor. They have to set the rates and the budgets for next fiscal year. We voted on one thing in January, another in February. Now this is the final to accept the rates that they set based on the budget that we voted on and gave them in January. So that's the treasurer's report. Are there any questions? Okay. Mr. Wigton? Mr. Wigton?
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Sammy Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. All right, item K, entertain a motion to vote on item K excluding the addendum which has the assistant coaches and the head coach stipend.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Miss Amy Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. And I'd like to entertain a motion to separate the assistant coaches from the head wrestling coach's position, as I cannot vote on the head coach's position.
I don't believe that you actually need to have a motion. I think you can just.
I just want to make sure it's clear. That's fine. All right, entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the assistant wrestling coaches and the head wrestling coaches stipend.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none?
Yeah, actually, so first of all, I would like to apologize for the hourly rate comment that I made at last board meeting. I did not intend on stating it that way, and I do believe that I presented it. It was disingenuous the way that I represented that, and I do apologize to all of you. That was not at all how I intended. To be perfectly honest, I was flustered and spoke out of turn on that, so I do want to apologize for that. That being said, I've spoken to some of you over the last month who were under the impression that my no vote was because I have a personal vendetta, which was also alluded to tonight as political games. I want to assure you that that is not true. As many of you have already stated, I have never met the wrestling coaches, and I have no issues with them. To the contrary, it's been wonderful hearing the good things that everyone has to say about them. I have no doubt they're great coaches, and I know they put a lot of work into building the program. Madison is blessed with some amazing coaches that always seem to put the athletes first in everything they do. From coaches who stay overnight at camps, help their athletes move when their parent has a medical emergency and is unable to, spend their own money for healthy snacks for athletes, put in extra time and money to build their teams in the off-season, assist with coaching the youth program to build the high school program, and countless other things that our coaches do to pour into our student athletes. I appreciate the work that the administration has put into trying to structure the program moving forward. I spoke to some of you last month and told you what some of my concerns were. While some of my initial concerns still stand, I also have concerns that I have not disclosed, and also was clear that I would not disclose. In disclosing those concerns, I would be compromising my integrity at someone else's expense. I appreciate that you all came out. I have no doubt that you're passionate about the wrestling program, and I can appreciate that passion, and I want you to know that I do hear you. That being said, I think that we do all want what's best for the students. We just may not agree on how to achieve that or what it may look like. I look forward to seeing the program be structured and approved, moving forward and continuing to thrive.
Just a note, we changed this format and brought it back to the table because it had to be worded correctly as a stipend. The way it was worded last month was not appropriate. So this is being voted on as a new stipend. Just want to make sure that's clear. So, roll call. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Against?
Mrs. Cotterman.
I just want to make a few comments on why I'm voting the way I'm voting tonight. I asked to postpone the agenda last month, not to vote against the stipends. My proposal was voted down because I requested more time. I had several questions and concerns, none of which are about the coaches' dedications, skills, or qualifications. I appreciate those who spoke positively about our coaches. Thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. I know it's hard getting up there and reading in front of everybody, so I thank you. It doesn't matter who you are in these situations. Questions of fairness and impartiality arise. The district can minimize these concerns if the district conducts all activity in a fair, open, and impartial manner. Despite posting the position due to Title IX concerns and interviewing, we didn't hire a coach. This raised questions, especially when these concerns remained unresolved. I don't feel wrong for asking questions. As an elected official, I must ask questions. I make informed decisions to ensure fair conduct and not to just approve everything that's recommended. I consider everyone from taxpayers to teachers and coaches when making my votes. I want every coach and teacher out there who puts extra time and care in to know that I appreciate you. I also want to ensure that I can explain my decision to taxpayers if I'm questioned about why approving this while the district faces financial difficulties. These are just a few of my concerns, not all. I had concerns about legality and procedures. Mr. Peterson consulted legal counsel and helped me. I had some follow-up questions with legal, and today we found out we needed to adjust the agenda. That's why you see the addendum and the correction. So again, that's why I voted to postpone last month and requested it. I simply wanted to make sure things are done correctly. I'm sorry if anyone was made to believe otherwise. While I appreciate the effort of composing the stipends, there were many aspects of this whole process I disliked, from the time the position was posted until now. Recently, I was told this stipend would be on the agenda until it gets approved, which feels like unfair pressure. And however the board votes should be respected, regardless if it's not the outcome you want. Due to this constant pressure, I requested that the stipends be presented at the contract signing, not 10 to 11 months later. This ensures everyone knows what to expect and we can agree on how contracts and stipends are offered. I also asked for the program to be structured and a plan for hiring separate girls coaches when necessary to avoid any of these future issues that we probably didn't really have to go through. Now, it took me a while, and I had to put a lot of my concerns aside. It was very difficult for me. And so just simply, if I can focus on the time that these coaches put in on the girls' tournaments on Sundays, and that Mr. Peterson is willing to work with me on my requests, I am voting yes. That's all.
Mr. Mosher.
Yes to Hutchison and Gilbert, and I have to abstain from the head coach position.
Okay, but we have to vote on that now.
No. She said we didn't have to separate.
No, I said you don't have to have a motion to separate.
Okay.
You can, you want to separate it, you just don't need to motion to do that. I
So just to be
apologize if I
clear,
didn't
we
say
just
that.
voted on the assistant coaches?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so now,
I make a motion to vote on the head coach.
I'll second.
No, I'm not.
roll call.
Sorry,
for head
sorry,
coach.
Mr.
Tim,
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr. Wigton, who seconded it?
I did.
Melissa?
Okay, so this is for the head coach.
Correct.
Correct.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
Against.
Miss Amy Walker,
Four.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mr. Walker.
Moving on to
L.
item L, superintendent business, motion to accept.
You did?
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion.
Just a few comments on a couple of the items. Number 7, which we had some conversation around both 7 and 8 at our last meeting. And so number 7, essentially we will not be attending the Capitol Conference this year, and effective next year, we will not be contracting with OSBA. And the reason for that is to offset the cost of the item 8, which we are contracting with Rock Mill Financial Consulting, David Conley, to help the board, help us develop a taxation policy as to developing some structure and some framework as to when we go out to the community for a levy. Mr. Conley, very experienced and has a lot of expertise in that area and will be helping us. Normally, he charges a much larger amount for his services, but he so kindly offered his services to us for no more than $18,000. So we feel that is well worth putting that policy together and having a framework to guide us for how we move forward. Number 9, the only thing I want to point out there that is different in number 9 versus numbers 10 and 11, which these are IT contracts. Number 9, those costs are on an annual basis, while the others are a one-time cost over the 5 years of the agreement. And then I also just want to elaborate quickly on number 12. Last month, the board approved the district adhering to the special education policies at the state level, and we adopted those policies. It later came to our attention and many other districts that those policies in some areas conflicted with federal law. So Neola came back to us and advised that we adopt this policy with the few exceptions that are listed there. That's what that is. We're kind of picking up the pieces that the Department of Education and Workforce kind of dropped. That's all.
Any other discussion? Anybody? Roll call, please.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. All right, visitors' comments? Any other visitors' comments? All right, seeing none. President's business. Next regular board meeting of education meeting, April 16th, 6 p.m. at middle school. We do request to go into executive session under item 2D. There will not be a vote for any business after that. So we would entertain a
I'll motion.
Second.
go into executive session.
Ready?
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Sammy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. And we'll be in executive session. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.